My Glass Steagall question got asked, so I'm left with, what do you think of Dodd Frank, the response to this crisis, and any heroes?
Dodd Frank, in my view, really missed Whiffed, the big one, which is too big to fail. Did nothing about cutting down these institutions to a manageable size, to a size that does not imperil the taxpayer. That is the key failing in Dodd Frank. Another failing, I think, is that it has left hundreds of rules to be made by regulators, and so therefore providing a second manipulation possibility for the industry. So they got their first chance when they were talking about the legislation, writing the legislation. They got their first chance to manipulate. Now they can manipulate the regulators. 2 bites at the apple.
Is it any better than nothing?
I think there are parts of it that are fine, that are good, but I think that a 3,000-page law, okay, Glass Steagall was 32 pages. 3,000 pages is, you know, it's way overdone and not effective on the crucial issue of too big to fail.
Yeah, and not to take much longer on that, I think I agree with Gretchen. You know, why couldn't you have just added one paragraph that essentially said any institution that has to rely on extraordinary government asset purchases, debt guarantees, or more than 60 days at the window will have its senior management and officers removed at the earliest convenience of the board and barred from employment as consultant or otherwise at a regulated entity for a period of 5 years. If you did that, these companies would either choose to shrink themselves to the point where they could manage their risk, or spend money on increasing their risk management to the point where they were ameliorated those concerns. Okay? We didn't want to do that. There's a reason for that. And legislators did a great job of doing everything but legislating, because they did, as Gretchen said, left everything to the regulators to define.
And you had asked about heroes. We have some heroes. There were some folks at the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office. We have a wonderful vignette where they came up against Fannie Mae when they were in 1995, part of the Congress Act in 92, which was the Safety and Soundness Act that created a new regulator for Fannie and Freddie, asked for studies from Treasury, GAO, HUD, and CBO. CBO did a masterful job of analyzing how rich the subsidy was from the government that Fannie Mae received. They were visited by Fannie Mae executives. June O'Neill, who was the head of CBO at the time, said she felt like they were being visited by the mafia. She was pressured to try to water it down, not to produce this report that was very explicit about how much the government guarantee was worth to the company and how at all costs they had to protect it. So we have CBO people who were, you know, standing up against the pressure from Fannie Mae. There are other people who saw what was coming, people in the Georgia area who were first to wave the flag and call out the rating agencies for inserting themselves in a process where Georgia had the most toughest predatory lending law in the country, but the ratings agencies walked in and said, we will not rate any securities that contain Georgia loans, and so all of that predatory lending law had to be gutted because the ratings agencies said they would not rate those loans. So we have people along the way who are jumping up and down and warning, but so there are some heroes in the book, I'm glad to say.